Hey boys, hope you guys are having a great quarantine. I know I've said that the last like 4 videos, but I know how difficult it's been for everybody. So I hope everything's going well. I hope you've been able to get your groceries and see people on occasion, but keeping social distancing in mind, which I haven't been doing because it's just kind of, I don't think 6 feet is enough to really just banish everything. But I mean, who knows? Maybe I'm just retarded. But over here in Georgia, it hasn't gotten crazy yet. But when it does, trust me, I'm hitting the bunker just like everybody else. So today we're going to be doing something pretty interesting, and it's something I haven't done yet this offseason. It's April 4th. So the draft is in, I believe, 20 days. April 24th is when it should be, or something like that. April 25th, 6th? I don't know. Either way, I know it's going to be a virtual draft, which will be very interesting to watch. If you guys do not know, the draft is moved completely online for owners and GMs and coaches and stuff like that. So it's a virtual draft, which will be pretty cool to watch. And I think that will be quite interesting to see how players and everyone manages this type of situation, because it's something that we haven't seen before. We're living through history. And like I said, I just think it'll be pretty interesting to watch. So with that being said, the New Orleans Saints hold the 24th pick in the new 2020 NFL Draft, the first round, which is nice because we didn't have a first-round pick last year. But we got one this year, so we get to talk about all the first-round excitement that every other team in the NFL gets to talk about whenever they actually have a first-round pick. You could be like Houston or Los Angeles and not have one, but we do this year. So we finally get to talk about that sweet, sweet first-round spot. And today we're going to be covering what we should use the 24th pick on. We're not going to be talking about necessarily who, but what. I'm going to be making so many more draft analysis videos, so if you would like to keep up with all of them, please hit the subscribe button, hit the notification bell while you're here, so you can be kept up to date with all of my takes, all of NFL news, Saints news, stuff like that. So the first position I'd like to address that we need to really take a look at is the linebacking position. Now, the linebacker was something that I definitely highlighted towards the end of the season, as all year the linebacking core just felt okay. It felt like if you were to grab a piece of tape to cover a leak in the ceiling, it was okay for the time being, but at some point that piece of tape was going to fall off and the water's going to start coming out. It just felt like it was good enough at the time, but not good enough to go down and, have that same linebacking core for a few years and really see peak results, because they weren't that good. Sadly, that's exactly what happened. The tape ended up coming off of the leak and it ended up bursting. Kiko Alonso ended up tearing his ACL again, which is really, really upsetting, and was really upsetting because he had a pretty good season, notching a 70.1 Pro Football Focus grade, making an immediate impact as soon as the Saints traded for him before the season started. Once he got put in, it really seemed like he made a difference because he was really picking up his own identity and becoming his own player. Because Alex Anzalone almost missed the entire season, 2 of our starting linebackers at one point because of his and Kiko's injury consisted of Craig Robertson and Stephon Anthony for a tiny bit, which are both not starting caliber whatsoever. Now, if you grab the fact that we have Kiko Alonso, who will not be coming back until probably around mid-season, and we lost A.J. Klein to the Buffalo Bills, you should see an immediate need to fill at the linebacking position. Demario Davis can't do it all himself, and we don't know what we're getting with Alex Anzalone, because every single season he's had so far has ended with injury. So you have an injury-prone Alex Anzalone, a Kiko Alonso you're not going to be getting back until around mid-season, and A.J. Klein that you lost to the Buffalo Bills. There is a problem there that needs to be fixed 100%. In my opinion, this right here is what the New Orleans Saints should spend the 24th overall pick on. If they don't, well, I think they'd be making a huge mistake, and that is something I would like us to avoid. Someone like Patrick Queen or Zach Bond could be available here, making an immediate impact to a struggling group on the New Orleans Saints roster. I'm telling you, there aren't many non-functional, peak functional positions on the New Orleans Saints, but Demario Davis can't cover the entire field. We need another piece. So that's my first take as to what we should spend the 24th overall pick on, but I do think I'm going to cover more here. I'm going to cover 2 more positions to really, give some versatility onto what the New Orleans Saints could spend that pick on, because after signing Emmanuel Sanders, it really opened up a ton of doors as to what we could use this pick on. And the second piece I would like to cover is the corner. Notice how I haven't mentioned wide receiver yet. Like I just mentioned, Emmanuel Sanders signing took the wide receiver group from an immediate need to a passive need. Corner, though, isn't exactly as passive as wide receiver is. The New Orleans Saints corner room reads as follows: Marshawn Lattimore, Jinora Jenkins, Patrick Robinson, and P.J. Williams. Now, there is an enormous drop-off from Marshawn Lattimore and Jinora Jenkins to Patrick Robinson and P.J. Williams. P.J. was brought back on a very generous 1-year, $2 million deal, which is worth every single penny. I feel like he's an amazing depth piece, but I still feel like this is a position that could be spent in the first round to really help bolster and fill the need for good quality pieces in the corner room. Not bolstering only depth, but effectiveness overall. Having players that are good enough and individualistic enough to come into games during certain situations that they excel at and do something great is amazing, and it's something that can be achieved by drafting a young corner. Another reason that corner is a necessity is because of Jinora Jenkins' age. He's currently 31 years old and will be like 33, 34 at the end of his contract with us. He isn't absolutely a grandpa yet, but it still draws an aroma of concern for future play because, as we all know, Father Time will forever be undefeated. Getting a player that can be groomed, not droomed, to enter that spot, soaking up veteran leadership and even situational playing time can be extremely beneficial in the long run. I don't think that this is, when you look at a first round pick, you think of somebody that could come in, make it an immediate change, start automatically, and be an NFL caliber player. The thing is that there aren't many positions that the New Orleans Saints need a player to come in and do that. If we don't draft a linebacker, I see us drafting a corner. And if we don't draft a corner, we're going to go into the next and final position, which is the wide receiver. Now, as I previously stated, I believe this is a passive need instead of a required one, but it is still a need that should be filled. Drafting a first-round receiver like Henry Ruggs, Justin Jefferson, T. Higgins, or Laviska Shenault could greatly benefit this team on levels that I can't even explain. It could end up giving us one of the most lethal New Orleans Saints offenses we have ever seen. We already have a history of making number 1 wide receiver paired with a seasoned playoff-ready, speedy Emmanuel Sanders. So getting someone that could potentially, be the guy opposite of Michael Thomas and placing that speedy Emmanuel Sanders in the slot could be absolutely lethal and open up so many doors as to what this offense could do play calling wise. We have covered the horrible wide receiver drought, whether it be Willie Snead and Brandon Cooks still appearing in Drew Brees' recently top targeted players, and the other 2 players besides Michael Thomas, the top 2 being Alvin Kamara and Mark Ingram, or Taysom Hill having more receiving touchdowns than our number 3 wide receiver. We have acknowledged that the lack is there. This is an extremely wide receiver deep draft class, so I wouldn't be surprised if the Saints hold off on wide receiver for the first round pick and wait until the 3rd or so. But if Sean sees a talent he likes, don't be surprised if he grabs him up. An honorable mention position that I would like to throw out there, just because everybody's going to flame me for not having this in there, is the quarterback. There are a lot of good potential quarterbacks that could sit on the bench for a year or two and really work themselves up to being that guy. But I just don't think that in this draft particularly, it's a very explosive need, especially after Sean Payton making the comments about Taysom Hill that he did, calling him the next Steve Young, saying that he's, putting that first round tenor on him. He's obviously a player he doesn't want to lose. But if Sean Payton has any doubts about Taysom Hill being that future guy like a lot of New Orleans Saints fans do, because he's only completed like 6 passes off of 13 attempts in his career, I do understand the want and need to draft a quarterback, but in my opinion, I think the New Orleans Saints should 100% spend the 24th overall first-round pick on a linebacker. I just don't see how you could want any other position in this scenario. We have such a hurt linebacking room, lost A.J. Klein. It's just such an immediate need that a first-round talent, there are a lot of good first-round linebackers that could go here. A lot of, Patrick Queen, Kenneth Murray. There are so many players you could draft at this position at the line or at this point in the draft for linebackers. So I think that the New Orleans Saints should jump the gun on this and really try to establish themselves as a contender with filling in the one extreme missing piece we have left. That's a linebacker. I think Sean Payton will do it. I think Mickey Loomis will do it. I think we're going to do it. Thank you guys so much for watching. Make sure, like I said, to subscribe and hit notifications for a bunch of more draft content coming out soon. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you boys in the next one. Adios.